Hi, Omar. So last night we had a quick discussion about the current market situation and the real estate in particular under the pressure of the coronavirus outbreak. And I could tell that you had a different opinion maybe on several matters. So I'd love to hear more from you, and I'm happy to address it.
Thank you very much for having me, by the way. I really appreciate it. Now, it's not that I had my opinions. I mean, I think we both had our opinions on what's going on, and your opinions were quite strong. I don't want to say that we're in a disagreement, but I think we have a different outlook. Now, you mentioned the real estate, and I do want to talk to you about that quickly. But before I ask you anything about real estate, I was more interested in your outlook on the current situation economically. I mean, from our discussion yesterday, it almost seemed like we were coming to the end of the world when it came to the economics, with your opinion. So I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts currently on where we're heading? How bad is it in your opinion?
I genuinely think that no one knows. I think no one can possibly count the impact, and I would say the domino effect on the supply chain. And no one really knows even when is this coronavirus situation will even end. I mean, we don't know when we are going to get back our freedom of moving around, of traveling, and what so have you. And obviously, some countries are a lot more impacted than other countries. So I think we were already in a dip at a global scale. I think the global economy was already not at its best shape since, I would say, the end of 2015. The many warning signs started to come to the surface, and I think it's time for properties, real assets, gold and silver.
Right. Now, sorry to interrupt you, but when we were talking yesterday, I mean, you painted a much worse picture for me. I mean, economically, if I'm not mistaken, you were talking about people potentially losing their minds. I mean, over things, some of the most basic life requirements, such as food or what have you. Do you really think it's going to get that bad?
People started to lose their jobs as we speak globally. So definitely that's going to impact their lives at every aspect, whether it's mental, physical, emotional, everything, you name it. And I think it's time for the strong, and it's time for the special people to really stand up for themselves and to keep it together and to combat what's happening and do what it takes. So definitely, yes, I think we should. I'm always optimistic. I'm a very, very, very extremely positive person, but I'm also realistic. And I think we should plan for the worst.
Right.
And hope for the best, or hope for the best and plan for the worst.
Okay. When you're saying realistic, is that just a softer way of saying you have a negative outlook on what's to come?
No, I think the reality today, if you look at the data, and if you look at the numbers, forget Firas's opinion. If you look at the data and the numbers, definitely I think we are entering into a greater recession than 2009. And I think if you look at the fundamentals of this recession as compared to the fundamentals of the 2008 and 9 recession, you would see a massive difference.
Definitely. Sorry to interrupt you. When you say if you look at the data and numbers, what specifically are you referring to? Can you give me an example of the data or the numbers?
Well, if you look at the hospitality industry, if you look at the share price of Boeing, of Air France, of the different airlines all around the world. Companies that are exposed, the supply chain of these mega conglomerates, you see that everyone is extremely impacted. If you look at the oil price, all this data tells you where we're heading to, and I think we're dealing with something that we've never experienced before. That just
Fair enough. No, I think you make a valid point when it comes to the organizations or the entities that you've mentioned there. But when you look at the other end of the spectrum and other organizations that have actually benefited from this, isn't what's going on right now just simply a shift of economics or the shift of cash flow or income from one end of the spectrum to another, yet still remaining within the same pool?
See, the positive thing about any recession is that money won't vanish. Whenever there is a debit, there is a credit, right?
Right.
But definitely, when you compare the number of companies or industries even that has been radically, drastically impacted by the coronavirus outbreak, as compared to the industries that are benefiting from the outbreak, there's no comparison whatsoever. So it's not proportionated, which means the mass will be suffering from the impact. Not It's not like an equal equation.
Right. Now, in your opinion, and again, I'd rather keep this discussion about facts, but let's shift to an opinion. I'm interested or curious.
My opinion is based on facts because I'm a man of facts. I'm a very realistic, factual person.
Fair enough. But also off the record, when we were talking yesterday, you didn't really seem to, see any light at the end of the tunnel with resolving the coronavirus situation or finding a cure, and that things were literally going to turn into chaos. Do you not anticipate that we're going to be finding a cure for this anytime soon?
Honestly, I think definitely we will. 100%. It's the question is when, and the question that I would whenever I wanted, also you've asked about my personal opinion. So if I want to really personalize my answer, I would tell you that in general, whenever I want to do anything in my life, I always study the risk and assess the risk. And if I can take that risk, and if that maximum risk happens, it's not going to break my back. If I can take that risk, then I go and I qualify the opportunity. So that's me as a person. That doesn't mean I don't like to project what I think as a person, on the entire market. Obviously, there are people who are more pessimistic. There are people who are more probably optimistic. There are people who care less about all of this. So,
are you at all optimistic about anything at the current time, at the time being?
100%, 100%, man. I am very optimistic about the opportunity of identifying certain niche within what's this massive storm and benefiting from it, definitely. And I think one of the overall generic opportunities that take place in during recessions is that the vast majority of people won't move. They will go into a stay still position and they just keep watching. So I am saying that no, you watch, you hear, you collect data, you study, you read, but then that should trigger you to do a certain action. Should never put you in a place where I have to stay still.
Now, my next question about real estate. Is this indeed a better time to invest in real estate, yes or no? And if so, why?
What's right for you could be wrong for me and the other way around. And I think it's a key message, I would say, to all real estate agents in Dubai, to all developers, to all salespeople in the real estate industry, that they should never project their personal opinion or an opinion of an individual on the entire market. There are people who are sitting on so much liquidity and they want to deploy it, and they don't probably understand the stock market, because 90% of the population, I think, don't understand the stock market well, and they want to invest it somewhere so tangible during this crisis, and it will be gold, silver, or real estate, because these three asset class everyone understands, and real estate is the only one that really can generate passive income for you. So I think it is a very good time to buy real estate if someone's sitting on liquidity, because this crisis is different than 2009 crisis. 2009 crisis, real estate prices were off the roof just before the dip, before the free fall. So I give you an example. Executive Towers was selling off plan at probably 3,800 dirham a square foot just before the crisis of 2009. Today, Executive Towers is selling on an average of 800 dirhams per square foot before the corona outbreak. So what I'm trying to tell you is that, and the 2009 crisis was triggered mainly by the overly leveraged real estate all around the world, the real estate bubble. Whereas what we're talking about today is almost a currency collapse. It's the entire globe. When I talk about Boeing and these massive conglomerates, I'm not an economist, but I read and I listen and I analyze. So when you look at all these mega conglomerates going under the threat of bankruptcy, maybe, I'm not saying Boeing will go bankrupt, but there are mega organizations that are going that are experiencing a threat of bankruptcy. So that definitely will impact the global financial system massively. Look at insurance companies and what so have you. So definitely, if I'm sitting on cash today, I would definitely take a position on real estate, on gold, and on silver.
Right. Now, the only conflicting part that I see in this is you're giving me an example of the collapse in 2009, or sorry, the economical turbulence in 2009 compared to now. Now, obviously, being much worse than 2009. The example of the square foot going from 3,800 and something down to 800 right now per square foot.
I just gave you an extreme example because the price of 3,800 was an exaggerated price. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm saying prices before 2009 was not even real. It wasn't real. It was over the top basically. But today, if you look at buying a ready property in Dubai, you're actually buying it at either the cost price or lesser than the cost price if you buy a land and construct the same property on it. If that makes sense.
Absolutely, it does. So again, question that I have, and this is a genuine question. Given the limited cash flow that I'm working with right now, should I invest that into real estate?
Never put everything you have in real estate, 100%. That's for sure. I think if someone has less, they can go into crowdfunding. They don't have to invest. You don't need big money to invest in the real estate today. Although I always prefer that I invest in direct real estate assets that are completely under my name and under my disposal and under my control. But yeah, definitely, if someone has the financial capability to invest in real estate, then definitely yes. Would I advise anyone to overexpose themselves? Definitely no. Whether the market's up or down.
Understood. A bit of a difficult question here, but I'm really interested to see if you can help answer this.
No difficult questions.
How long do you think it would take to recover from this?
No one knows. No one knows. No one knows. Honestly, no one knows.
How long did it take to recover from the economical crisis of 2008,
No, but
2009?
that was a much easier calculation than now, because that was an immediate free fall. We all knew the reasons. We all knew what we're dealing with. And we all knew that prices of real estate, for example, was not realistic. Now we'll come to a realistic price, which is maybe cost price when you look at land plus construction plus certain margin, not 3 times the cost.
Who, in your opinion, is going to pay the ultimate price for this once we come out of it?
Like I said, I'm not an economist, man, but I think in general, industries who are exposed the most to it are industries to do with traveling and hospitality and tourism and obviously airways. But I think people who are suffering the most anyhow in general, let's talk about at the micro level of an individual. I think individuals who are going to suffer the most, individuals who were taking their business or their life for granted in the past years during the good times. Because if you were not working your ass off during the good times, that means you didn't learn enough to overcome and to combat this. If you look at any company today that is downsizing, or even if you look at a team level, when the manager looks at downsizing the team, the manager would look at the least performing people who are creating the least value.
A lot of companies, not just locally but globally, of course, are starting to trim the excess fat, in other words, or lay off a lot of people in order to cut down on cost. What's the situation now with you guys, with FAM?
Well, with us, I always think that we would do as we have been always doing. We would do the best out of today's market. So I think we're subject to these challenges, just like every other player in the market. And if you check out our record, even during 2019, every quarter we've been giving bonuses to our employees. That was something unasked for. But whenever the business is delivering, we've been always very generous to our employees. So how we're dealing with it today, it's a very tough decision. But I think whatever other companies do, I'm hoping that we are able to do better, because also as a business, we're not exposed financially like many other businesses. We're not overly leveraged. We're not leveraged at all.
Okay. Uh, Anything else that you wanted to add?
No, not really, no.
Firas, thanks a lot, man, for making the time. Really appreciate it. And I really do hope that we come out of this fairly soon. I also appreciate the continued business that's been taking place between us. And I did want to actually take the opportunity to have this discussion with you and open it up to the public, if that's okay.
Yeah, definitely. Omar, really thank you very much for the phone call. And I think I highly appreciate the fact that you want to take this out to the public, because I think it is informative. It can probably help someone out there, or give someone just, another voice to what's happening today. So keep it up. And I hope that we can do many more of these in the coming weeks.